Money is in the list. That's what I want to talk to you about today. Yeah, I know you've heard that before. Maybe it's a bit of a cliche, but I want to show you proof that the money's in the list, and I want to show that to you over on my blog at marlonsnews.com, marlonsnews.com. I do not have the graphic made for the article yet, but it's the article called The Money is in the List. And what I want to show you here is this. Do you see this? I don't know if you can see it or not, but this is called an addressograph, and it's this little machine that they used in the old days to put addresses on envelopes and so forth that they would mail. And then here's how they found the names for their prospect list. They had to assemble names from school census, Sunday school rolls, club membership lists, rural carriers, list of dealers, all of these things that they would do to assemble lists, right? And if you had a 40,000 person list back then, this was a huge freaking deal. And the reason it was a huge deal is because you had to have these rooms and all these 40,000 index cards with data on them, and you had to manually mail them. It was a huge, enormous task. Today, a 40,000 email list really isn't that big. Here's an example of the index cards that they had to keep their list on back then. And they would have room for what was mailed to them and the date and so forth on the cards. And they would have a whole correspondence room like this with stenographers in it. And so forth, and the card catalog files, employees, letter writers, the whole entire thing, right? And my point is, and here's actually some numbers from way back then that are interesting. You can read the article, but the point of this is, if they spent all of that money for the employees, the correspondence room, the index cards, the files, maintenance of the files, using the addressographs to address the letters, they had to print the letters, all of that stuff. If they could do all of that and make money, then it improves to you the money's in the list, number one. Number two, it improves to you that where everything has changed, nothing has changed. How did you make money back in the early 1900s? You had lists. You sent letters to your list, and you followed up with salespeople. How do we do it today? Well, we have lists. We send letters in the form of emails to our list, and we follow up. Instead of a salesperson, we have a virtual salesperson, a video sales letter, a webinar, a sales page that's more in-depth than a shorter letter, right? But the money's in the list. It always has been. It always will be. So today everybody gets all confused. There's all of these fancy, highfalutin, really just crazy freaking offers all over the place, which is all good, man. I'm a marketer. I love it. But listen, man, the money's in the list. Like, you just boil it all down, simplify it all down. You got to have a list, and you got to sell them stuff. The list is of prospects, the list of customers, and then you sell them stuff, and then you sell them more, recurring billing, bigger tickets, higher margin, right? So it's not a complicated freaking business. Now, that doesn't make it easy. In today's world, sometimes it can be hard to build your list. It can be a challenge to build your list because ads are so freaking expensive, right? However, there's ways to get around that, right? You just got to go back to basics. That's my point here. You got to go back and say, listen, forget all of this huge, endless stuff that's just being paraded at you over and over and over and over and over nonstop. And you're like so confused and so overwhelmed and blah, blah, blah. Just go back to basics. Do you have a list? How many people do you have on your list? How many people are you adding to your list this week or this month? If you're not adding anyone, you need to go to resellertoolkit.com/20-minute. You will at least spend 20 minutes a week and be building your list. Now, but you won't have a huge list, but at least you'll be building a list, right? Now, to go beyond that, then you go to not more advanced strategies, but things that take more than 20 minutes a week is what I'm trying to say here, right? You can recruit affiliates, you can do video more. Actually, I have 4 ways. If you want to go beyond that, you go to resellertoolkit.com/4-traffic-sources. And those are the only 4 traffic methods you'll ever need to build your list. Right there, right? But my point is not that. The point is This is how they made money back then, and this is still how we make money. You have the lists. See, back then, they had to have multiple stenographers and everything to mail these lists. Like some people, to mail their databases, they had 12 stenographers writing letters to their list. It was just crazy. It was crazy what they had to go through back then, right? But the point is, if they did all of this, they could keep records on all of these little cards and have these whole correspondence rooms and all these fancy files and everything. Well, nothing's changed. It's just our list is on our freaking phone instead of having to have that gigantic index card file stuff. You have a autoresponder service and a phone. You can mail your list. But the money's still in the list just like it was back then, right? And so how are you building your list? What are you doing to build your list? If you're not doing something today to build your list, it's a mistake. If you're not doing something this week and this month to build your list, it's a mistake because that's where the money is. If you're not emailing your list, emailing offer to your list today, it's a mistake. That's where the money is. So I want to boil this down. I want to make it crystal freaking clear where the money is so you don't get detracted by all of these offers that just take you on these wild goose chases. You go back to basics. The money is in the list.